In 2020 and 2021, American Banker and Digital Insurance, two leading media outlets serving the financial and insurance industries, conducted a detailed reader survey for special reports in and around digital transformation, enterprise intelligence, and customer centricity. Beyond just publishing those results, they wanted to speak to some market leaders, thought leaders, whose strategies seemed to stand out from the rest of them and include that inside of their report. That is a bit of a rarity given the number of successful transformation projects. We're fortunate enough that 3 of the 4 companies actually represented in that report are here today. It's probably not surprising that those companies are companies that you've already heard from. Those 3 companies are Bank of Montreal, Banco de Bradesco, and Mercury Insurance. I'd like you to help me welcome to the stage, first and foremost, Katherine Rivington, Head of North America's Retail and Small Business Credit Risk at BMO. Next, I'd like to bring to stage Kevin Briley, Director of Underwriter Research and Innovation at Mercury Insurance. Welcome back. And then finally, I'd like to bring Henrique Albuquerque from Bradesco to the stage. Thank you. So we're going to actually spend a little bit of time talking about those concepts of digital transformation, enterprise intelligence, and customer centricity from a couple of different angles. Remember, it's off the back of that report that we're having this panel come together, since they were all featured, all organizations, and were featured in that article. We thought we'd actually start with Kevin first and actually drill into sort of your experiences in the insurance industry and how that you were able to take that vast client-facing network that you have and actually turn that, your brokers and agents, in accomplishing your mission objectives and sort of optimizing your business outcomes. We actually are then going to pivot towards the banking side here with Katherine and Henrique to talk a little bit about not only the customer journey aspects, but the credit risk management and the bringing of those worlds together and sort of how you could drive incremental value from that digital journey by bringing those 2 worlds together. So without any further ado, what I'd like to do is sort of dig into and understand what all of you have in common is the sort of business outcomes from the consequential decisions that you're driving every day, and how you actually, and in what ways you've actually manifested them that caught the attention of the American Banker and this study. So with that, the first question would be to you, Kevin. You've already shared some of this with us in previous sessions, but in the context of this report, you had shared some thoughts that maybe you could elaborate here a little bit about how you were able to align your technology and organizational around the business needs that you were facing, and how that resulted in faster and better business decisions for you.
So some of the key challenges that we're facing is, first of all, we weren't starting from scratch. When we introduced the FICO platform, we had already been doing automated decisioning for a number of years. We had gone through 4 different iterations of what we called straight-through processing projects. And to go in there and combine our rules and our automation in our system. And that really kind of got this interwoven decisioning mechanism that we had that was really challenging to manage. What wound up happening is we had this automated underwriting decision process, but it was this static, monolithic thing that it wasn't easy to change. When we needed to make change to it, it was complex. We had to do different analysis projects to figure out what to change, go in there and try and introduce those changes. So our time to react to market was slow. We tended to have these very monolithic rules, because anytime we tried to introduce anything complicated, when we started trying to interweave the machine learning models with the rules, you got all this interplay that we didn't understand. So we wound up having a bunch of unintended consequences. The other thing that we saw was very difficult for our business users, or our underwriters and our underwriting leadership, to communicate with our IT team, because they spoke different languages. That, you know, the business people are in there and they've got their objectives that they're trying to accomplish, and they're trying to communicate, all right, I need you to do this and I need it to do this, and that they really they weren't on the same wavelength, and so we wound up with a lot of challenges with that.
I recall from your discussion earlier sort of how you were able to bring your process closer to your consumer by sort of collapsing and bringing that business into direct control in the situation. This is a common thing, and as I pointed out earlier, it was one of the primary business drivers is getting that business enablement there. And I know from firsthand experience in the insurance industry, if you can't collapse that time down, you're going to become, at a minimum, adversely selected, but probably not selected at all. So thanks for sharing that. Maybe you could actually talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you were able to address as you rolled this out and adopted, you know, the FICO platform. I know that you're a big user of sort of our testing and simulation features, and how that can actually help your business drive better outcomes. Perhaps you could share a little bit about your thoughts there and other areas.
Sure. Really, it transformed how we think. You know, we set out to go in there and, you know, let's get the underwriter more into the decision process. Let's get them empowered to where they can be more of a part of it and they're controlling these decisions more directly. But what we really wound up with is, because it was so flexible and easy to change, that we could introduce a whole bunch of new data points, that we could introduce the simulations to where they could go in there and, you know, so we brought in a geospatial analytics vendor that, you know, uses artificial intelligence to help figure out, you know, shapes of houses and things like that. So we could introduce that into our real-time underwriting decisioning. And we were able to combine all sorts of different, you know, data feeds and processes and, you know, a few different machine learning models to make a bunch of decisions that we just wouldn't have made in the past. The simulation for our underwriters to be able to go in there and to, in real time, figure out, you know, this is what, you know, I want to go in there, I want to make these changes, what exactly is going to happen with them. It really cleared up a lot of that obfuscation that we had in what is the impact of this change going to be, and how can I react to this changing market. Just a quick example from recent history, you know, we saw, you know, with the pandemic, right, you know, things are going great, we want to, you know, kind of open things up, and we want to change our rules to help more business come in, and then all of a sudden, that's flipped on its head now, where we have this inflation atmosphere, and we have to go into very quickly react to that to deal with profitability challenges, and we're able to go in there and make those changes, simulate what's going to happen with them, and get them applied quickly.
And the degree of your problem is actually quite large, because, you know, in the insurance industry specifically, there's state-level sort of filings, and everything's different, yep. and the scale of your organization is rather massive. So could you just share a little bit about sort of the breadth of that from the states you do business in, and sort of the number of agents that you work with, just to give the audience a sort of an appreciation for what he's talking about here and the complexity that he's managing.
Yeah, so we have a network of about 7,500 independent insurance agents that we deal with, and then on top of that, we also have our direct channel. So we're kind of, you know, we have, you know, and then you have the multi-rater concept, where those agents are going out there and they're not just quoting one company at a time, they're quoting 20 companies at a time. So we've got all of these different channels that things are coming in, all the decisions that we have to make and get them back to those agents in, you know, milliseconds, so that they can decide who they're going to sell a policy with.
Thank you for sharing that. Henrique, I'm going to move to you next. You have been sort of one of the first on the digital uptake here with your Brain project and the journey that you've gone on. Could you tell us a little bit about how the Brain project has transformed Bradesco's internals, your decision-making, and your improved customer experience? You have a sort of a unique story there.
Yes, Bill, thank you for the opportunity for us to share our story here with you. As Janaína mentioned, with the implementation of the Brain platform for credit decisions, we were finally able to do something similar to what Kevin was talking about, give the business teams more power, more agility to implement new credit solutions. So that was very, very good for us. We went from traditional IT system development time to weeks for changes in policies and parameters for credit solutions and for new policies for the business teams, right? When the COVID pandemic hit us, hit Brazil, hit the whole world. Brazil went through the Brazilian population went through very difficult challenging economic times. And thanks to the Brain platform that we had implemented, the business teams were able to create the refinancing solution that Janaína mentioned and quickly address the need for a large part of our customers who are, we have a big representation of the Brazilian population, right? So that was great for us. And that quickly implementation of the refinancing solution was only possible because of the first use cases that we implemented, right? Back in 2019, 2020, we worked with our main credit product, which is personal loans, implemented that in the platform, got the platform in place, the data ingested, and ready to use, and most importantly, as Janaína also mentioned, the people, the teams, and the FICO partnership was in place. So all of that was ready for when the pandemic hit. We were quick to implement the solution. That was great for us, great customer experience, and great for internal decision making.
And sort of this whole American Banker study that occurred that sort of brought the three organizations on the stage here to where they are today, speaking about that experience up to this. It's premised on this sort of iron triangle concept of people, process, and technology. And you've just heard sort of how the people, enabling them in the process to change quickly. I remember when you went through that change when COVID came and you were well on your path with the customer journey and you pivoted so quickly, and that response was like way ahead for you and for the organization. So since then, things have been progressing. You've been expanding. There's a lot going on. So maybe you can share with what has happened or transpired since then.
Well, with the refinancing solution alone, we've helped over 1 million households in Brazil refinance their situations, right, their credit solutions. We've seen 41% reduction in delinquencies, in default rates. 98% of the transactions are currently done by our customers through our digital channels, and 60% of the credit decisions or applications are now done through digital as well. So these are great numbers for us. It's a huge increase based on our traditional history of being a physical branch bank distributed all over Brazil. And now we have this big switch to digital, and the credit digital transformation was only able because we had this in place.
It's interesting to watch how things have changed over time. And I see organizations like Bradesco putting in their shareholder and 10K sort of these objectives about key KPI metrics of measuring digital uptake and how that's going to, therefore, increase satisfaction and NPS, and NPS drives growth of stock. And on the other side of that, it actually has the knock-on effect of reducing or increasing your efficiency and reducing costs. And so it's amazing to see how you focused on that digital element and that uptake, and the amazing numbers that you've seen is sort of rippled through the business. It's just absolutely amazing.
It's been great. Thank you.
Speaking of amazing, our next speaker actually does amazing things, but not the least of which was 8 times? 8 times on the Velociraptor? Come on, man. Now I'm impressed. Katherine, you had shared with us before, the opportunity you had to look at a new credit decisioning platform, and you shared some of those outcomes. Maybe you could actually elaborate on that experience in the context of, what brought BMO to this American Banker Conference in the first place is that you had a different mindset. So would you mind sharing a little bit more about that?
Sure. No, thank you. So yesterday I shared the reason we were looking to move to the FICO platform. And again, it was just that our ambition and the complexity of how our business and channels had evolved. We had outgrown our existing system, and that ambition was around growth and loyalty through customer centricity and then moving towards a digital future. But what I see the real opportunity, it's sort of what you said, it's combining technology, people, and process, right? So the proven technology solution from FICO, along with our team's creativity and some great technical advice from FICO advisors. And one of the things that thrilled me in the past couple of days is hearing that BMO is actually pushing the limits of what the FICO platform can do. So for me, that's really, really exciting. And I think the other opportunity that we've been talking about, right, is to share decision intelligence across the whole organization to really fuel optimized customer strategies. And for us, I'd say we're lucky that the full retail organization is really engaged, from business line to marketing to the channels group, risk, and even fraud, kind of looking to leverage the full capabilities of the platform. And I just think through time, we will be able to make better, faster, and better targeted decisions that are leveraging, the complete set of multi-channel and multidisciplinary insights. And just, the last thing is on the people side. I can't highlight that enough, that if you have a technology that is also impacting culture and pace of innovation, that is just completely such a powerful thing. So very proud of the team.
There's several things you said there that I just want to latch on to and sort of reinforce. The first and the foremost of them, it actually starts with the creativity of your staff. It's your innovation, it's your idea. Just in my analogy of the woodshop, it's the creativity coming out. It's the ability for your team to do what they do uniquely that comes out, and that is the biggest difference. I also value our partnership in the fact that better's always possible for us, and you've been very direct and candid about where we can do better and how we can do better, and I welcome that feedback because it's how we all get better, and it is why we are here, to make things better. So thank you for that. I think that you mentioned sort of what's next for you. This is a multi-year project, and you're not in an uncommon situation where these things you're talking about moving to your marketing side and pulling them in. Like, this is a journey, and the steps and increments that you are on are providing that incremental value. Maybe you could share a little bit about sort of what results you've seen, but also where you're looking to go next.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spoke yesterday about exceeding our business case benefits, so yay. But I thought maybe I would dig in a little bit deeper to the operational efficiency side of what we're seeing, and just actually be specific about one of the drivers, which is the modular, repeatable design across the life cycle. And so just to give an example, if debt servicing is important to a number of the decisions you make, which it probably is, you can point them all to a single module, which you can fully test, make sure it's error-free and operating exactly how you want. And in the past, in our prior environment, we were rebuilding the same or comparable logic in multiple places, which can introduce inaccuracies, operational risks, and it's definitely inefficient. So this has been one of the reasons that we've been able to shrink our deployment time by 50%. I've been asked at the conference if we've used that opportunity to reduce headcount given the capacity release, and I think that's an option that an organization could take, but for us, we just chose to supercharge our capabilities, and we've actually made more than 200 material decision strategy changes in the past 12 months, so that's what we've been doing with that extra time. But like you said, there is so much more to do. I think we're stepping towards that customer-centric digital future that we have in mind, and I'm taking away some ideas from the past couple of days. So Bill will look forward to continuing to partner with FICO on our journey forward.
Thank you. The statistic of 200 changes in 12 months, I mean, this is the sort of agility that we're talking about, which actually makes big business change. I would be remiss if I did not point out that all three of these organizations are represented from a study done in 2020. And here they are in 2022 speaking to this value that you're getting from your digital journey, which starts with the people and then the enablement of the technology into the process. I will point that out to you. If you're not yet on the journey, speak to one of these people. They have vision. They have an understanding of how to pull this off. And if you haven't started, you probably should, because you're a little bit behind. I want to thank my panelists very much for their time today. And we're going to move over to Darcy, who's going to close us out for the day.